Welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead then and call the May 12th, 2020 Cottage Grove Economic Development Authority meeting to order. First order of business is roll call, so I'll turn that over to Christine.
Thank you. EDA President Bailey.
Here.
EDA Commissioner Carey.
Member Carey, yes, here.
EDA Vice President Dennis.
Here.
EDA Member Myers.
Here.
EDA Member Posh.
Here.
EDA Member Smoot.
Here.
And EDA Member Thewis.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is 3, which is approval of the minutes. 3.1 is approval of the March 10th, 2020 EDA minutes. If there's no changes or corrections, I will look for a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Carey.
I will second.
Second by Mr. Thews, I think. Okay. All those in favor? Christine will have to once again do a roll call as part of this deal. So, Christine, you want to do roll?
Sure, thank you. EDA President Bailey.
Here, yes.
EDA Member Carey.
Yes.
EDA Vice President Dennis.
Aye.
EDA Member Myers.
Aye.
EDA Member Posh.
Yes.
EDA Member Smoot.
Yes.
And EDA Member Thewis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. And by the way, and I could do this at the end, but it's probably weird to do it that way. We do want to welcome our newest member, Erin Posh, there she's waving at us. So our newest member to the EDA. She is taking over from the spot where Ramona Westberg used to sit. So Steve and I got a chance to do a Zoom call, just like we're doing here with her, and we're glad to have her join the EDA. So welcome, Erin.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here for my first meeting.
Yeah, and it happens to be this way too. Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Then we'll move on to 4, which is business items. 4.1 is the economic development update and business inquiry. And I believe, Christine, you're taking this one.
Yes, I'll have admin stop sharing their screen and then I will share mine here. One moment. So to begin with the Beige Book update, this is from the April 15th. The next update will come out May 27th. So we're they're a little behind from us. So in terms of the update, employment fell significantly since the last report in February due to the current coronavirus. District-wide surveys by the Federal Reserve Bank found layoffs across the sectors, although firms are considering that the layoffs are temporary. Consumer spending has declined significantly due to the pandemic, with hotel occupancy levels plunging 17% and below in Minnesota. Commercial construction fell since the last report, but definitely optimistic among firms that projects are being delayed rather than canceled due to a variety of factors related to COVID-19. Manufacturing activity contracted sharply, particularly related to production and employment. In terms of housing report, the March housing report from the St. Paul Realtor Association, housing sales are up almost 20% since 2019, and the average sale price is currently almost $300,000, which is a 17.2 increase over 2019 as well. Extra Space Storage, they have currently a temporary certificate of occupancy that has been issued until all the site grading, landscaping, and asphalt are complete. And I noticed this morning that they were putting in the landscaping, so that's moving forward. Renewal by Anderson, the project is nearing completion with the presumed occupancy date of early June. Currently, Renewal has requested to use the link, which is the kind of ground level alley walkway area between the existing building and the building under construction, to use as storage until the main building is completed. And inspection on the link is scheduled for today. Air gas, contractors have completed phase 1 of the footing and foundation. Staff will meet with the air gas team to discuss phase 2 of the project, which is scheduled to begin this summer. Up North Plastics, as you can see from Highway 61, is moving along. Contractors are continuing to complete the exterior facade and underground interior utilities, and then the concrete floor installation is scheduled to begin in late May. Grove Nutrition, this is located at 80th Street Crossing near Ace Hardware. They were issued a certificate of occupancy. They're a business that offers healthy shakes, teas, and other health products. The business will also offer wellness profiles and consultations with a wellness coach. The facade improvement program. So we are doing still phase 2 of this program, but due to the pandemic, we did push the deadline to extend to the end of May. The applications will be reviewed and then brought to you at the June 9th EDA meeting. I'd say we have roughly about 5 applications that we currently have in-house for review. And with that, I will stop sharing and can take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Christine at this point? All right, seeing lots of shaking heads. I will then go ahead and move to number 5, which is a public hearing. We do have one this morning. 5.1 is the Small Business Assistance Emergency Program. And I'm assuming, Christine, are you going to start us on this one?
I am. So just want to make sure everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'd like to discuss with you, as the mayor said, a small business emergency assistance program related to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has had an economic impact on all businesses, specifically small businesses. As you know, the governor issued a stay-at-home order, and executive orders 04 and 08 definitely impacted many of our small businesses. The federal and state government have provided loan and federal grant programs. For example, federal has the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. That's on its second round, though it's expected that those funds will run out again. EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, is currently closed and not accepting any new applications. They're still looking to fulfill their first round. For their second round, they did open it, but it's only for agriculture-related businesses. The state has a small business emergency loan, a 0% interest between $2,500 and $35,000 that were also impacted by executive orders 04 and 08. The state did allocate $30 billion. There are no more funds for this program. It has been exhausted. The small business loan guarantee provides an 80% guarantee up to a maximum of $200,000. But there is a fee of 0.25% on the guarantee loan principal. So there's still funds for that, but that is more debt for a small business. It's important that we encourage businesses to apply for federal and state funding since they do have larger pools. But the concern is that smaller businesses have smaller cash reserves, and if they don't have an existing SBA lender, it's been shown that it kind of slows down the process, and potentially those smaller businesses are at a higher risk of failure. So before you is a proposed of a small business program, which purpose is to ensure the preservation of employment opportunities through the prevention of business closure. Also, we want to prevent long-term economic viability in the community. Small businesses regularly employ residents of the community, and sometimes helping a business can ensure that employee is able to, receive wages. And in that process, it kind of becomes circular in terms of helping the businesses survive. You help prevent that foreclosure of that resident who works for that business. They're able to pay their mortgage or rent. Part of the proposed program requires that businesses were profitable before the pandemic. The program applicant has to be locally owned and operated, has an employee limit, a limit on annual gross revenue, and I'll get into the details of the program in a minute. But before you is the consideration of a one-time only grant, looking at consider allocating $300,000 from the EDA Trust. The grants would be up to $10,000 and can assist approximately 30 businesses. In doing some research of some other programs in the metro area, you can see Edina used $100,000, which they were able to provide 10 grants up to $10,000. They have an HRA property tax levy. They also discussed as part of this money that they originally used for their facade improvement program. St. Louis Park had $200,000 and they issued up to 40 grants up to $5,000. Minnetonka, $225,000, where they provided 30 grants up to $7,500. And then Maple Grove had $250,000 and they issued 25 grants up to $10,000. At this time, it's important to note that Washington County is not considering any program itself. For example, Hennepin County and Ramsey both have programs in addition to the federal and state. But at this time, Washington County is not considering a program. In the packet that you received, there were a number of attachments. And so over the next few slides, I'm going to discuss kind of the program guidelines. Some of the eligibility requirements. We want an applicant to demonstrate that they were impacted by COVID and listed non-essential in that executive order 04 and 08. And so what that means is some of those businesses are restaurants, salons, chiropractic. If you're open and operating now, you're considered basically essential. So it's some of those businesses that were deemed non-essential. We should, though, consider other non-essential as well because they have equally faced financial hardship. Those businesses would also need to demonstrate that they've applied for federal and state programs to make sure they've exhausted all resources available to them. We'd also want to encourage working with a landlord and or a loan holder for deferment of any rents and loans. The applicant would then enter into a grant agreement that would outline the program rules that they would have to abide by. We're looking to have a third party administer the program. This would prevent any bias or handpicking against a certain business. So we would do it through a lottery system that the third party applicant would or administrator would implement. The financial data goes directly to them. They review it and pick those grant awardees through a lottery system. The application period would be open for 1 week, and then we would distribute the funds within 1 to 2 weeks after the EDA and City Council approves the agreement. And then the recipients, we would ask them to come and report to the EDA within 2 months of how they've utilized the funds. In terms of eligibility, locally owned and operated, as referenced before, those executive orders, other businesses approved by the EDA, we would look for that business to have a physical address, brick and mortar, and not in a residential neighborhood. We want to consider businesses also have been in operation for 1 or 2 years prior to March 1st. That way they can demonstrate previous profitability before COVID, the assistance to an already established business in our community. And the business has to serve the general public and conform to all city codes, including zoning, and not in any violation of a city code. It's important to note that the SBA considers a small business 250 employees or less. So although most Cottage Grove businesses would fall into this, we're looking at kind of the micro business. So we're proposing looking at employee counts of 3 to 25 full-time employees because they're more likely to face that financial hardship. And then those with 3 or less employees typically are self-employed or 1099 contract employees that work from home. So self-employed individuals are eligible for unemployment plus the additional $600 a week from the CARES Act. We recognize there's many types of business and variables, but in order to make it most usable, we felt it was important to look at that brick and mortar and locally owned. The applicant would also require businesses to have no more than $1 million in annual gross revenue. And then in number 7 on the application guidelines, it lists a number of ineligible businesses as well. So you can see before you the schedule. The City Council did consider the program at a workshop on May 6th, and then before you today is consideration of the program. Again, that third party would determine the eligibility and ineligibility, and then award the grants via that lottery system. So the application would be online, and then there would be a checklist of documents that are in that program guideline on the last page that the individual would need to submit to the third party for their review. In terms of funding for the program, we're proposing 1 year's allocation from the EDA Trust. This is a donation that we received from LSP Power. Currently, the EDA Trust balance as of April 30th is roughly $3.5 million. And then for the third party to implement the program, it's anywhere between $20,000 to $40,000. And then the additional legal services of approximately $8,000, and this would be drafting of approximately 30 grant agreements, which you, the EDA, and eventually the City Council would review and approve. We talked about internally about considering this a forgivable loan, but still, if a business were to receive the funds and close afterwards, there's really no way to get the funds back. So felt the grant process would be better. Also in the packet are 2 business lists. One business list is based on Executive 04 and 08, and that is roughly 95 businesses that could apply for the program. And like I said, approximately 30 of them would receive a grant. The second list is of all the community businesses, both brick and mortar and home-based. It's important to note that the home-based, we don't license or permit those. So we have a roughly about 369 brick and mortar businesses. And then we would look to market the program through our social media platforms. The program would be on our website. We would look to the Chamber of Commerce to advertise the program, to the Chamber, Open to Business, Tyler Hilsbeck, who's our business advisor, and then you as the EDA and City Council members, any contacts that you may have with businesses in the community in terms of promoting the program. As I stated before, the City Council did hold a workshop. They did recommend moving forward with the program and voted 5-0 to establish the program. And then as part of the process, we did consider a number of pros and cons that are in the packet of information before you. And then with that is a recommendation to authorize the implementation of the program. And with that, I figure we could jump into questions.
Sounds good. So I guess just for the EDA, a couple tidbits of info just to share with you. As Christine was talking, there's 2 types of funds that support the Economic Development Authority here in Cottage Grove. One is, and it's a small amount, but it's an amount that's derived by taxpayer money. That's part of our overall budget. Then there's the trust fund, which is what we're talking about here. And so there is a distinctive difference. And we thought as a council that it would be important, especially for all of you, from a messaging standpoint too, is to make sure that everybody knows that we're not, in essence, giving out taxpayer money for those that might be concerned about that to businesses that are in need. This is grant money that is not taxpayer funded, that we're looking at using to support this program. It's as Christine was sharing with all of you, there's other cities out there doing similar or and different amounts or whatever out there doing the same thing, using a variety of different methods. I'm not sure that there's anybody else that's doing it through a grant, our type of grant program where we have an EDA trust fund. I think most of the other ones that I saw, they're doing it through a like an HRA or something to that effect. So that is taxpayer funded, which is fine. I'm just giving you all kind of the background. The other reason that we're looking at doing this real quick, and then maybe I'll turn it over to Vice President Dennis, who was really pushing, and rightfully so, to do this and work with us, is we're hearing that between the federal loans, the state loans and such, and Paycheck Protection program and all that, there's a core group of businesses that just are falling through the cracks. In other words, there isn't, for whatever reason, there's certain things that they don't reasons that they don't qualify. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to target the smaller businesses, the ones that are, of course, brick and mortar, the smaller businesses that really are the engine to our local community and our local economy. So I just wanted to share a little insight, and that's why, I support it. Obviously heard the council did. So Councilmember Dennis, did you want to add anything?
Well, thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. I've said a lot on this already, and I can probably say a little bit more. The first thing I would like to do, which I did back at the council meeting, was to commend Director Costello and her staff for all the great work that was put in on this, because when you do a project management, obviously different ways that you do that, but in this case here, we did a survey and some sampling to come up with parameters that were based upon programs that other cities were using. And so what we found is that there were certain commonalities there. It's a thread that kind of runs through it, indicating virtually an industry standard. And so we took that, and then we, of course, added some additional elements to this to make this ours. And I think the program that we have here is just incredible. So about 8 weeks ago, when we were facing, the shutdown, being a business owner and a brick and mortar business owner of a company that's a cash flow based business, I knew and understood immediately that there were going to be issues, because many of your small, Main Street American businesses don't have months and months worth of money set back in order to cover something like this. So what I challenged our staff to do was to come up with some ways and be a little bit creative to think about what could we do here to possibly help in a time of need. So over the past 6 years that I've been a member of the City Council, we've worked very, very hard to come in and employ a substantial number of practices to, in essence, bring our vacancy rate from, I think it was about 24% down to 6.02, which is something that was revealed to us, I think, at one of our last EDA meetings. And that percentage of vacancy is really considered to be optimal when it comes to, having some space for somebody to move into our town, or if you have an existing business owner that wants to either, graduate to a larger space, or somebody that needs a smaller footprint, you have the opportunity to do that. And that's something that's preferred as opposed to having somebody leave our city. So we've put a lot of time and effort. Most of you that have been here now a while have seen the BR&E program, business retention and expansion. And in this case, it's not so much the expansion part of it, but it's the retention part of it. So if you think about it, in anything that we do in business or life, if you've got a scenario where you're taking a step forward and then we're taking a step back or two, we're really not getting any place. So that was really the whole basis for bringing this together. We're structured very uniquely here in the fact that we do have an EDA trust fund. I don't believe those other cities do, which is why they're using the taxpayer-derived money. For us, the money is all given as donations coming from business to help support the efforts of having a program here that can help to establish and grow a business program. So there's some statutory backing for this. Our attorney went through and did some research, and what we're attempting to do is we're working hard to avoid some blight, which is, we've all had this here before when Rainbow closed and we had, Home Depot gone. I mean, it was an ugly situation that took a lot of years and a lot of efforts to get that put back right. So this circumstance here, as the mayor indicated, this helps to cover the small brick and mortar companies that otherwise would not have or have qualified, or maybe even in some circumstances known that there were opportunities that they could try to get to help stabilize them. So the way that I view this opportunity, this is a bridge. And again, the mayor said there's no guarantees, and there aren't. But I would rather not sit on my hands knowing that we could have helped somebody to keep businesses here, businesses that are owned by people that live in our city, businesses that employ people that live in our city, and businesses that provide shopping opportunity and convenience for those of us in the city. So this is a really good thing from my perspective, and we can provide a bridge. The $10,000 amount was, the mayor had asked what amount could we possibly do that would make sense, and the 10,000 is based upon considering what a business would pay for a lease space on average of this kind of business. Some utilities, maybe trying to stabilize some payroll or some other fixed costs as far as running the business itself. So if we can gain somebody a month and a half, 2 months, whatever that time frame is with this helpful hand, the hope is that we can get far enough down the line and get more things opened up on the governor's dial system so that we can keep these businesses here and not take the steps back. So I think I've covered pretty much everything I have, Mayor, unless there's anything else you'd like me to articulate.
No, I think you covered it along with what staff and myself had said. But now I'll open it up for the any EDA members. Do you have any questions or comments on the proposal as it's before us?
I have a quick comment, if I could.
Mr. Carey?
So I just wanted to mention, for myself, I feel very fortunate to be in the industry that I'm in. We've had, I don't want to say success at this point, but we're still continuing to kind of truck along. But I know many business owners that are struggling due to COVID-19. And this is extremely encouraging. So I just wanted to mention that personally, I don't know that I've ever been more proud to be a citizen of Cottage Grove and a member of the EDA. So this is going to be a tremendous help to a lot of businesses out there.
Thank you. Yeah, Aaron?
Yeah, I think it's incredible, especially compared to some of the sizes of these other cities and the robust economy that they already have, and we're able to provide more. I guess I have a question. Are we going to consider allowing more businesses with less, with allocating less funding? And then also the third party that's going to be evaluating, is there like an objective criteria based on how hard they're hit, so we can make sure to really use the funds to preserve the most number of businesses possible?
I guess I can answer the first part, and then I don't know if Jennifer or Christine want to answer the second part. The first part is yes. If a particular business, based on the feedback, does not need the full 10,000, are we going to be able to give out more of the money? The answer is yes. The other thing I will just tell you, it would come back to us as the EDA too, but I'll mention what the council said, is we did give staff, as we work through this program, if we do need to come back and add additional funds because maybe there's a few more businesses that we weren't able to help, and are we able to do that? The answer is, and would we be willing to do that? The answer is yes. So on both of those, whether it's current amounts or even if we need to go back and gain a few more, some more additional money to help local businesses, we'll do that. As relates to the criteria, I'm not sure which of our staff members wants to take that.
Mayor Bailey, I can take that. Member Posh, so working with the third-party person, we're using Ellers and Associates, who is our financial advisor that we've used on projects in the past for the EDA and City Council. They will take the program guidelines in place and give it kind of like a rating system, and then be able to evaluate each application based on that. And then there's a checklist of items in order to make the application complete that business would need to submit. And so we kind of looked at what other communities were doing and having Ellers kind of look at each application and vie it to make sure it matched our criteria on a simple point system, and then placing that in a lottery pool and then pulling out those 30 to begin with, we thought was the most kind of across the board, even and neutral.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and it's very important to mention that we need to, we wanted to take any, if you will, political pieces out of it, because we did not want to be the ones that are picking and choosing winners and losers, if you will. So we wanted to make sure that there was an outside group that's going to look at it objectively. And then the lottery system we thought was the best. But as we shared, if there becomes a situation where we need to add some additional funds, we have that ability, as you see, and we'll come back to that later. Okay. Any other questions for EDA?
One.
Mr. Myers.
Just this is probably more of a general comment and then a question, but I think this is being involved with the Chamber of Commerce, something that I've heard is certainly going to make a big impact. If we're looking at 30 potential grants out there through this program, do we even have an idea of, out of this list on the materials you sent out had, you know, over 360 different businesses listed on it? Do we know what our expectation on demand is? Is that sort of where the amount started at for $300,000? So we figure there's about 30 businesses that could really use it, or I guess that's my question.
Christine, do you want to take that, or?
Sure. EDA member Myers. So I'm basing the numbers on the smaller list, the one that has roughly 95 businesses, and that's based on the executive order 04 and 08. So say if 40 applied, you know, if we could roughly provide 30, I figured that was kind of a place to start. And as the mayor stated, you know, depending on how many applications we get, we can judge whether that funding needs to increase past that 300,000.
Awesome, thanks, Christine.
Yeah, it's a great question. We also, in talking to some of seeing and speaking to some of the other cities that are running a program similar to this, a couple of them are going back and adding additional money. And I think we might be at this point the only one going to 300,000. If I recall, I think everyone's like 100 to 225, but we decided to go up a little bit higher just to cover all the expenses and things like that, and to see if we can help a few more businesses.
And just to quickly share, for example, St. Louis Park, they ended up assumed they could do 40. Their max limit went to 46. So they extended their funds to help that additional 6 who applied.
I have one more quick question. The fees for Ellers and the legal fees, do those come out of the trust as well?
That is correct.
And that's above and beyond the 300,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, EDA?
Just want to say this sounds like a great program. Do you know if there's any other East Metro cities that are doing programs like this? It seems like all the cities are in the West Metro that you listed.
Mr. Thews is speaking, just so I can say that publicly, and the answer is no. We are the only East Metro city that's doing this.
Great.
Okay. So seeing no more questions to the EDA, this is a public hearing. Now I can see who's all in the deal here. So I'm going to go ahead and officially open the public hearing. I don't see anybody from the general public at this point that is watching or being a part of this. But just to be official, we have to wait a few seconds here. So if there's anybody that wants to speak on this item, is welcome to do so at this time.
Got one more question, I guess.
Yes, EDA member Myers.
How is this going to be communicated to the businesses in our community?
Did you say how are we going to communicate this?
Sure. EDA member Myers. So currently we're putting together some Facebook posts. So this will go out on the city's Facebook. I will be contacting the executive director of the chamber to ask that she put it on their Facebook and website. We're building the website currently, and then I'm doing a mass mailing of those 95 businesses. Wow.
Okay, cool.
Is there a link that could be shared with us so that we can share it with some small business owners?
EDA member Smoot, Christine?
Yes, as soon as I have the web link built, I will definitely send it out to everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no public comments at this point, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And at this point, EDA members, I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
Mayor, I'll make motion to approve the program as stipulated in the staff report and materials.
All right, so I have a motion by EDA Vice President Dennis.
I will second it.
Right, and I have a second by EDA Member Pash. Any further discussions? Seeing none, Christine, do you want to do the roll?
Yes. EDA President Bailey.
Aye.
EDA Member Carey.
EDA Member Carey, you there?
Oh, can you hear me? Yes, sorry.
There you go.
Thank you. EDA Vice President Dennis.
Aye.
EDA Member Myers.
Aye.
EDA Member Posh.
Aye.
EDA Member Smoot.
Aye.
EDA Member Thewis.
Aye.
All right, fantastic. Thank you all for your support of our local business community. And we'll get this program up and running and see who we can help at this point. So moving along in our agenda, number 6 is other business. 6.1 is the EDA calendar. That is obviously in your packet, but I would just mention that things are kind of fluid right now, as we all know. So just watch the city's website, Facebook postings, things like that on changes to calendars and things that are happening to the future. 6.2 is EDA comments. Is there anybody? I have some, but I'll wait. Anybody have some? Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to mention that I was able to watch a publication yesterday that was done with SWCTC, and it involved Lori Levine from the Chamber. And one of the things that she spoke about was something that I've been seeing. I've been doing it. A lot of folks in the community have been doing that, and that is to help promote our businesses here in town. So if you go out to a restaurant and get a nice takeaway, or you've had a good service someplace, or whatever that might be, as she was saying, share, share, share. So put that out on your electronic media, social media, etc. And if we can do anything, it doesn't cost any money to do that. But we can keep names out there, keep things top of mind for people, and keep reminding people of the value of supporting those companies that are investors here in our community. So that's what I have. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Is there any other EDA members at this point that have any questions or comments? All right, I'll just add a couple tidbits of info. More of it's just generic and FYI, things you can help with, I guess, as a group. One is businesses. It's interesting. We've been watching locally, obviously, what's going on with COVID, and are interested to see if either housing starts, things are dropping, or businesses are saying they're not going to open at this point or build at this point due to the current situation with COVID. I would tell you, and Christine or Jennifer can jump in, from a true housing standpoint, believe it or not, we've not seen any slowdown. Our permits are still up, and we still have development happening. As you may or may not have noticed, down where in between Home Goods and Planet Fitness, that's where PetSmart is going. So they're still continuing to build out their building at this point. Now, there has been a couple businesses that are postponing. We've been working with the developer and the owner of the property from Mississippi Dunes Golf Course on a proposal for his property, and they're going to hold off for right now. Wasn't a big rush anyway, but just they decided they're going to wait for a while longer before we go deeper into discussions with them. And then the EDA might remember that we did approve what I guess you call a spec building along Highway 61 between the school bus garage and that storage facility or the park and ride. And they have opted at this point not to build that building at this moment. They were planning to break ground this spring. So those are really the only two that I'm aware of at this point that have slowed down. There's obviously any other restaurants we've been talking to. Everybody's kind of holding off right now until things kind of slow down or get more specific to what's going on with the approvals for businesses to reopen. And then the last thing I'll mention is regarding COVID. I get inundated by both businesses as well as by citizens and such about everything from how many cases do we have in Cottage Grove to can you approve me to open my business? So I would just share with you, one is, the governor's decree is the governor's decree. And I know there's been some talk out there from some cities to defy the governor. I am not one of those mayors, and I would not recommend that. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. He is the executive and the leader of our state, and he has the authority and the power to do that. And I'm not about to override his belief or his authority in doing that. I think he's been doing a great job managing a very difficult situation. And hopefully, in a short time here, we'll be able to actually start reopening our economy here in Minnesota. And at the same time, we don't necessarily know, just for the public, we don't necessarily know who all has or does not have COVID. There's a lot of talk out on the Facebook pages and that about is there COVID cases here at this building and that. I mean, you probably saw the news article regarding Renewal by Anderson, who had a couple cases, and they immediately shut down for their cleaning and such like that. I think that was amazing that they took it upon themselves without anybody saying they needed to do it. So we just all have to, practice good social distancing, hand washing, wear masks if the businesses, I recommend it, but if businesses are requiring it, then so be it. It's up to each individual business to make that determination at this point, unless the governor or the federal government states something differently. So I just wanted to mention to the public, just be the face, be the voice of reason, the calming voice, because I think there's just a lot of people that are freaked out right now, and a lot of businesses that are kind of freaked out right now. We just got to keep them calm and know that we're there to help and support them. I think the comment by Councilmember Dennis was spot on. Whatever we can do to support our local economy, I think is the right thing to do, and continue to champion our local businesses. So that is it for me. Was there any other EDA comments? All right, 6.3 was response to previous EDA comments. I don't believe there were any. 7 is workshop. We don't have one this morning. And 8 is adjournment. I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, we have a motion by EDA member Smoot.
I'll second.
Second by EDA member Carey. All right, Christine, to be official, do you want to do the roll?
You bet. EDA President Bailey.
Aye.
EDA member Carey.
Aye.
EDA Vice President Dennis.
Aye.
EDA member Myers.
I'm gonna say aye, but it's always not as official without the gavel, Myron. I want to see if you can get that back from Cindy here so that we have a gavel for our next meeting.
Yeah.
EDA member Posh.
Aye.
EDA member Smoot.
Aye.
EDA member Thewis.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right. Got everybody? All right, there was a bunch of a knock